Many times you can appreciate the qualities of a game design without actually wanting to play the game yourself. Michael Kiesling's Intarsia is a game for 2 to 4 players that was released by Deep Print Games in 2024, and it falls into that category. I can appreciate the solidity of the design. It's a very admirable design in how Kiesling has approached it and what he has achieved, because I think the game does what he wants it to do, and yet I'm not sure that I want to play it. I find the game engaging while I'm playing it, and then I finish and I say, do I want to do that again? Here are the shared components of Intarsia. You have a scoreboard with some other information on it, a display of tool tiles that come in 6 types in 4 colors. You have cards in those same 4 colors and wild cards. Each player gets their own player board upon which they will build a parquet floor using these wooden components. All of this material takes up a fair amount of space on the table. In a 4-player game, you got all these boards, you got the box, you got the scoreboard, you got the tool tiles, but to understand gameplay, we can look at only one player's board right now. It starts with a connector on it, and each player starts with a hand of 10 cards. They're dealt one of these cards at random, so I may start with 4 red, 3 purple, 2 green, and a wild. And on a turn, I'm going to take one of 2 actions. I can pass, which means I'm done for the round. There's only 3 rounds in the game, and you must discard down the 3 cards in hand when you pass, so don't pass initially. Instead, you are going to play cards and build elements on your board. Everything that you build must connect. You start with only one connector, so the only thing you can do at first is build a frame. A frame costs 1 card in a matching color, so I can spend a green card, put out a green frame. That's it. On my next turn, maybe I spend purple, put out a purple frame. All right? That's all very straightforward. But these are only the frames. You want to build the inside elements as well. So maybe on my next turn, I spend 2 purple to take one of these middle elements and add it inside. Very nice wooden components that go together nicely. You've got this middle element here that drops in. Of course, you may destroy your board if you do it carelessly. You have a table that goes in top, and now this ornament is complete. But I must pay to get that. I must pay 3 purple cards for this, and then 4 purple cards for the table. I don't have those right now, so let me just put those on the side. One important element to the game is that when you spend cards, sometimes you get cards back. If you spend only 1 card, you get nothing. If you spend 2 cards, you get 1. If you spend 3, you get 2, and so on. I spent 2 purple cards for this middle element. I get back a non-purple, non-wild card. So let's say I take a green one. All right. On my next turn, what do I want to build? I've got 4 red, 2 green, and a wild. That can be any color. You can also use any 2 cards as a joker, but it still counts as 1 card. So if I spend 2 cards for something, but it's actually 3 cards, I only get 2 back. So you're down a card. Ideally, you want to build as efficiently as possible. Let's say I want to build a connector so that I can put more things on the board. I have to spend 4 cards of 1 color to put down a connector. And when you spend 4 cards, you're going to get 3 back, but you don't get to choose which 3 precisely. When you spend 4 cards, either for a table or a connector, you go to the scoreboard, look where this marker is, and you're going to move it 1 or 2 spaces and get what that marker lands on. So I can move it 1 space and get 2 cards of 1 color and 1 card of a different color. This is one way that you can spend cards of a color and get back cards of the same color. Or I can move it 2 spaces and get 3 purple cards. Okay, that's what I can do. Let's say I go here and I'm going to get 2 green and 1 purple. I got plans. Okay. So on my next turn, maybe I spin the green And I'm going to put down another green frame. Okay. I'm building a floor. Why am I building this? What am I doing? What am I working? What's guiding me other than just the random cards that I have in my hand? There's a couple of things. There are the points that you're going to score at the end of each round and at the end of the game. At the end of each round, each connector that you have is worth as many points as the round that you just finished. So at the end of round 1, I get 1 point per connector. Not much. I spent 4 cards. I get 1 point. It's pretty minimal, but you need the connectors in order to do anything other than just build these central elements. At the end of the game, you score 1 point per frame, 2 points if you have the 2 elements here like this, or sorry, 3 points for this, 7 points if I have the 3rd element inside, and 12 points if I have the table. So effectively, building a frame is worth 1 point, and this middle element is worth 2 points, and then the 3rd one is 4 points, and the table is 5 points. So you want to build complete segments, but you also want to build for another reason. So if I look over to the tools, you have objectives that will let you claim a tool. And if I have 2 green frames, I get to take this tool, has a plane at the top, and it's got 1 point showing here. I will score 1 point. That's it. All that work for 1 point, which seems so nothing. But you're going to continue play, try to score other tools. I can't go and score the same one again. This is the setup with a 4-player game. There's two tools of each exact objective, of each type and color. In a 3-player game, you're going to take out 1/4 of these tiles. In a 2-player game, you take out 1 tile of each type. To determine which ones you take out, they have numbers on the back. So this is used only in a 4-player game. If in the future I do, let's see, I just go ahead and do this. I've got 4 green cards. I can use those greens to get another connector. So I spend those, get a connector, go up here, and because I spent 4 cards, I'm going to move this 1 or 2 spaces. Let's say I move it here and get 3 purple. So now my hand is 4 purple. Your hand is going down by at least 1 card at a time. If I used any 2 cards as a joker, then it counts only as a single card, and you'd only get 1 card back less than what you spend. So ideally, you don't want to use any jokers by assembling 2 cards. But, okay, did that. Now I can spin a purple, get a purple frame. I could spend 2 purple, get this middle element here, and now I've completed this. And when you get another tool of the same type, you score both that tool and all other tools of that type. So now I get 3 points, not just 2. Wow, really making progress here. I'm all the way up to 4. Now, ideally, later in the game, I'm also going to get these 2 tools because then these will score again. Everything compounds over time, so you want to specialize in getting tools from a particular column. The tools are worth different point values in a 3 or 4-player game. Some of them are worth the same anyway. Like this one is worth 1, no matter which one you get. But ideally, I get this one first and then score that. I could have just worked towards this directly and then tried to score this 3 multiple times, but you also have to work with which cards you start with and what you have to work with as you're going through all of this. So this is what I have right now, and I know I'm shooting for this next, hopefully, maybe. Or I can work towards this one, but that one is a complete yellow table. So I will need lots of yellow cards to do that, 10 yellow cards in particular. And right now I have only a purple left and I need to pick up a card because I spent 2 purple. So what am I working towards in the future? Maybe this one next? I'll take a wild. Oh, sorry, a red. Colors lose all meaning after a little bit. So I have this, I've got 4 points, I've got these 2 cards in hand. I can pass if I want, or maybe I'll spend the red, go ahead, get the red frame, so I can at least start down the road. One reason to keep building things is the later that you pass in turn order, generally the better, possibly. The last player to pass is going to get first choice of these 5 cards next time. So if you're looking to get certain colors, maybe you want to pass, well, you want to pass last. So you get first choice. Whoever gets first choice, everyone else gets choice clockwise order from that person. So you may be second to last to pass, but be last to choose, depending upon who else passes last. So you're trying to drag things out as long as possible. This one has 2 cards of each color and 2 wild. So you get the wild, that's great, but you don't specialize in a color, which means it's harder to build connectors and tables. So maybe I do this, I come back, do I want to build another purple frame? I cannot, so I must pass at this point. And ideally, next time, I'll get to pick this up again, or maybe this one. So 4 yellow and 3 red. So at least I can sort of work towards yellow and red, because now that's what I want if I want to specialize in those tools. You can also look here and say, well, what are the next spots along here that I can get if I spend 4 cards of a color? I go here, I get 2 yellow and a wild. I can go here, I get 3 red. Maybe I want to look ahead to that and see, yes, I want to build towards the red. Now, of course, I'm taking all these actions in a vacuum, but no one else doing anything. Other people will be playing 4 cards and moving this token along. Other people will be claiming tiles from the display, which means you are competing for the limited number of tools available. There's only 2 of each type in a 4-player game, and 1 of each type in a 2-player game. So there is a race element, but you can see what everyone else is doing. You know what cards they have to start with. You know what cards they pick up. You know which cards they can get if they play 4 cards of a type. So everything is kind of public and available for you to look out, parse who can build what when. How close is someone to claiming something that I want to get? You're not going to get everything, but ideally you specialize in something in order to get the tools and maximize those points. So when I pass, and everyone passes, we score 1 point per connector, we move this over here, we get our new cards, and then we do it again. And after 3 rounds, we'll have scored connectors, 1, 2, and 3 points at the end of each round. We'll score these elements at the end of play. We'll have scored tools throughout the game as we acquire tools, and then whoever has the most points wins. I played Intarsia 3 times on a copy borrowed from the BGG library, once each with 2, 3, and 4 players. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I admire the solidity of the design. The conceptual nature of it is very cool. The idea that you have cards in different colors, and you spend them, and you get back cards of a different color. Unless, of course, you spend 4 and you're in the right spot where you can get back 3 of the same color. Doesn't always happen. You don't always want it anyway, but it could happen. That's the exception here, what we're working on. But in general, you're being forced to go back and forth as you're building things and look ahead to the future. What do you want to build down the road that's going to determine what you pick up right now? And I could spend 2 purple and pick up a yellow, and 2 green and pick up a yellow. And now I've got 2 yellow to spend and pick up a green that I can use with the other green that I still have in my hand. So you're shifting your focus continually in order to build back and forth and work towards particular tools. So I got this 2 green frames, and then I built up to get this. And so now I'm specializing in the plain tool type. I want to get more planes in order to score these again. But along the way, before I would claim this 2 purple with the middle elements, I would have actually claimed this 2 purple framed that has a saw at the top. So now I'm working on the saw tools as well. by design, you're going to be forced into different channels, and now I'm working towards the saw. I'm competing with other people to make that happen in order to specialize and score those points. So everything is very logistically solid in how you're trying to manage things. And the game feels like an elaborate logic puzzle where you're trying to spend the right cards the right way in order to get the right elements. And I kind of go heads down and just forget about other people being there. So I find it incredibly engaging. I'm just enmeshed in this puzzle of how to get the right things and work towards a particular tool. I'm not really paying attention to anyone else, which is something I like to play games for, is to interact with other people. And here the interaction is so indirect and vague, where all the information is public. I know the cards that everyone starts with. I know what you spend. I know what you pick up. And so in general, you can kind of track, oh, you're picking up 3 red from there. Well, you're working towards something that's using that red. And what tools do you have, and what are you possibly going to get down the road? And you can pay attention to all that if you want, or you just focus on your own thing. And then sometimes you'll be like, oh, yeah, someone took that tool ahead of me. But often you can see what people are working towards. They can't claim a tool that has two red frames with 3 elements in them until they have 2 red frames with 2 middle elements in them. So you can see how far everyone is progressing towards certain tool types and whether you need to worry about it or shift your focus into something else. And it feels like it's missing the human element a little bit, in that the personality of people doesn't come through. There's no choices that are really making you express yourself in how you're playing. You might have small differences where someone just goes with lots of connectors and lots of big frames, but not really. I mean, that's probably not going to happen because that doesn't get you anywhere. So everyone's kind of building the same way, and it's just an efficiency problem of you doing it where you don't waste any moves. You never want to spend 2 cards as a joker to get something else, because then you're getting back 1 fewer card than what you spend. Spending 2 cards as a joker, that counts as 1 card. So if I spent 2 red and then a green and a yellow, that counts as only 3 cards, and I get back only 2 cards even though I spent 4. So again, you're trying to be super efficient in what you're doing. So you're kind of mathing it all out and looking ahead and trying to figure out all this, that, and the other. And again, I find it engaging. I like it while I'm playing Intarsia, and then I finish and it's kind of like, what did I just do? Yeah, everyone else is here and we scored points and we see who wins, but it doesn't feel a lot like I'm playing with other people. I'm more just playing with artificial intelligence units at the table that I'm competing against, rather than people, because I get no personality elements coming through in the play. So I admire the design. I think it's solid. I think it does exactly what Michael Kiesling was trying to do. Right? It's got some Azul elements in terms of how you're trying to balance everything and build stuff up the right way in order to score points. Because in Azul, you're putting tiles into a 5x5 grid, and ideally I score 2 together and then the 3rd and then the 4th, rather than the 2 and then 1 out here, then connect them, because you'll score fewer points that way. You want to build up the right way in order to maximize your score. But the way you're taking tiles in that game directly impacts the choices available to other people. Whereas in Intarsia, I've got a hand of cards. You can't affect my hand of cards. I spend something, I get back what I want. I mean, in theory, a color runs out and it's not available, but haven't seen that yet in a game. In theory, I'm working towards a particular 3-card bonus on the scoreboard that I want, and maybe someone else gets it. That's bad. But that's really indirect. It's not something that you're trying to damage someone necessarily by taking the bonus that you think they want, because you have to be able to use it as well towards whatever you're doing. So it's this bumper car style interaction where we're racing and maybe knock each other sideways, but it could have been anything there. It could have been a tree or a curb or whatever. And so it stops me from getting exactly where I want to go, but it doesn't feel like you were intentionally doing it, or there were particular forces in which I'm trying to focus on stopping you from doing something. It's just you're a little in the way, and okay, that happened. So again, solid design. If you like the logistical challenge, it can work for you. Just depends on what you want. There's also the pain of setting up all those tiles, which I don't like. You got to slowly put them all out, check the player count if you've got 2 or 3 players, exactly which tiles are going out. It's a little detail busy work to make the game function. Whereas if you were playing it online, click a button, there you are, and you go. But again, that even removes a little bit more of that sense of players being at the same table and doing something. Now I'm just making things work more efficiently to get to stuff faster. But again, it's abstracting the people out of it. Whereas I want more of us doing something where I can really affect what happens to you and have to worry about what you can do to affect me. So it's more a personal taste thing than the design doesn't work. Because again, I think it does exactly what Kiesling wants. And maybe it's what you want too.